Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. And today, I am very excited because I am bringing back a video format that I haven't done in a very long time. If you have been here a while, you might remember I used to do these things called book battles on my channel, which basically it would just be a reading vlog where I would pick two books that I had heard of that sounded like they would be similar to one another, whether it be, you know, super similar tropes or plots or just vibes, whatever it might be. And I would pretty much just read them back to back, talk you guys through it, not give any spoilers, but just give you like the basic sort of summary, how I'm feeling throughout. And then at the end, I would pretty much just declare a winner of the book battle, basically saying which book I liked better. So I want to do that again today, but I want to do it like spooky edition, thriller edition. I've had these two thrillers that I've been really wanting to read for a while now, and they sound pretty similar. I don't really know too much about them, but I do know that both of them pretty much entirely take place in a car, which sounds really interesting to me. I really love a thriller that is just fast-paced. I feel like that's what I'm in the mood for right now. So the first one is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is huge. He's kind of like the king of thrillers. I feel like he has so many books at this point, and this one has always caught my eye, just like the cover with the car on the front. I know it's set in the 90s, and I know it's about a girl that I think has to like hitch a ride with a guy, and I think there's like a killer on the loose. I am not totally sure, but I've just seen a lot of things about this one. And the other one is actually a Kindle Unlimited thriller. It is called Run on Red by Noelle W. Illy, I think is how you say her last name. I really don't know much about this one. I haven't seen that many people talk about it, but there are a couple of girlies that I follow on TikTok that are big thriller readers, and I've seen several of them mention this book. It just looks like it's super fast paced. Like I said before, I think the entire thing takes place in a car. It's a girl like running from someone. I don't know, but I'm interested to find out, and I just think it'd be really fun to read both of these books back to back just to kind of see which one I like better. I'm sure obviously each of them are going to have like a lot of nuances, things to the story that make them different from one another, but just the concept of two fast-paced thrillers that have that like, you know, claustrophobic kind of feel of being stuck in a car or being chased by someone. I'm here for it. We're verging on spooky season. I mean, I'm already there. I've been there for the last 2 months if I'm being honest, but yeah, I'm ready. I think I'm going to start with Run on Red, just simply because I want to. I feel like because Riley Sager is more of like a traditional thriller author that we all know and love, and this book is a little bit more low-key, haven't really seen it a lot. I'm kind of interested to see how I feel about this one first before jumping into the more popular one, but we'll see what happens. I will get started. I just downloaded it on my Kindle. I'm very excited. I will let you guys know once I have kind of like a gist of what the plot is. I will come back and let you know. Okay, so I just pretty much flew through the first 25% of Run on Red, and so far it's exactly what I thought it was gonna be. Again, I didn't know much about it other than it was like a girl involved in a car chase sort of situation, gets right into the action, and that is exactly what happens. Literally the first line of the book is, I think they're still tailgating us, and from there you're like thrown into the story, very fast paced. It pretty much just follows these two college girls that are going to a bonfire party that is like out in the middle of nowhere, near like these canyons. So they're driving on these roads that literally like, you gotta stay on the road. If you go off the side, like you're gonna topple down into the canyon sort of situation. And right away the book starts with them on the way to the party. It's late at night, and like the main character girl, she is very into true crime. She's always like watching true crime, listening to podcasts and whatnot, so she's kind of like a paranoid person. So right away this truck is like following them really close behind and has been following them for like 30 minutes, and her friend is like, chill, I'm sure that they are also just going to this bonfire party out in the middle of nowhere, like that's why they're following us. And she's really paranoid, but then eventually the truck like ends up passing them, and she tells herself it's okay, it's fine, whatever. But then a little bit later on, they end up driving down this other road, and that truck is parked on the side of the road, and it ends up following them. And then from there, things just go really crazy, really fast. Just like out the gate, kind of my worst nightmare, in the middle of nowhere, no service, it's dark. Again, these roads are very like twisty, windy, on a canyon. You can't drive that fast because you're making these twists and turns where if you miss the turn, you're gonna like go off and topple into the canyon. So it's really crazy. I don't have any idea. I mean, obviously you can tell these people are following them, and I don't know why. It doesn't seem like there's any motivation thus far. I'm interested to see like where it goes, because right now, obviously because I don't know anything, I'm like thinking the worst, and it's like, who are these people? What do they want? Like, I just think they're like psychopaths. So yeah, like I said, 25% in, and it already went so to level 10. Like what's happening right now, I figured would happen at like the very end of the book as far as like what they're going through. So I'm just interested to see where it goes, because it's not that long of a book. It's a little less than 300 pages. So I'm 70 pages in and I'm 25% through. So yeah, liking it so far. I will say, you really have to pay attention reading this book, because when it's explaining like what's happening with the car and where they're driving and what's going on, like there's just a lot of little details you have to pay attention to really like paint the picture in your head. But so far it's a total just like very fast-paced thriller, and yeah, interesting so far. I can't tell for sure, and maybe I'm like silly and I missed it at the beginning, but I think this book might be set in the past a little bit. It might be set in the early 2000s or something, because the main girl has a flip phone, and they've talked about the car they're in, like her friend's car, she's driving it. I don't know if I mentioned that, she's with her friend, but her friend is driving this like old car, and she keeps referring to like the boom box in the car, like it detaches from it and stuff. So it just sounds like something that's like early 2000s, but maybe she just has an old phone and she has an old car. But I don't know, I just think it's interesting because Survive the Night is set in the 90s. So if these both are also like books that are kind of set in the past, I just think that's kind of fun. But anyways, I'm gonna keep on reading. I'm really hooked in the story. I want to see what happens. It just got to kind of a moment where I'm like freaking out a little bit. So yeah, I will check back in a little bit. Okay guys, I just got to the 2/3 mark of Run on Red, and I'm not totally sure how I'm feeling about it at this point. The beginning, like I said, really drew me in, was super fast paced, but now it's like getting at this point where it feels, it's still very fast, but the story itself is like feeling slow, if that makes sense. It's just not quite what I thought it was gonna be. Like the entire thing is like action packed, like anxiety filled, like it's like a chase basically is like what I'll say. I did think that like so much more of the story was gonna take place within a car, and it hasn't really been like that, but I don't know, I'm interested. I'm definitely flying through it. It's a very easy read. Like I said, it's a pretty short read, but something just kind of happened, and I've talked about this a lot in like different videos. Whenever there is a mystery involved in a story, like an aspect of it where you're trying to figure it out, one of my sort of pet peeves is whenever like what is happening is kind of just told to you. Like whenever a character just kind of stops and explains like, this is what's been going on the whole time, and just proceeds to like sit there and kind of like info dump and tell you like this whole story, and like it just gets told to you rather than like you as the reader being able to kind of like figure it out. Like I'd rather be fed clues and then kind of put the pieces together myself and then get the big reveal of like, this is what it was, you know what I mean? So that's what kind of just happened, and I just felt like a lot of info is getting dumped about just like other things, because like this story is very much, it's one of those stories where it's focused on just like a couple characters. It's like these two friends are on the run from these people that are chasing them, so the whole story is like focused on them, but now you're getting like info about these other characters that aren't even like present in the story, and so you're just kind of like, oh, okay, like it's just a lot of information. So yeah, I'm still interested to see like what ends up happening, but it's not quite what I thought it was gonna be. But I'm not like writing it off. I'm not giving my final kind of thoughts on it yet, but that's where I'm at. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this tonight, and I will let you guys know what I think when I finish. Okay, I just finished Run on Red, and I have to say the ending definitely made up for the middle. It got a lot more fast paced. The end really had me stressed out there for a minute. I was kind of like on the edge of my seat, not sure what was gonna happen. It was definitely good. In the end, I do still feel like the purpose behind it all, and like once you figured out what was going on, it was just like a little bit weird for me. It was just like, I don't know. I felt like the actual purpose of what was happening didn't really matter to me in the end. It was just the whole journey of the story and being stressed out and not knowing what was gonna happen next. Like it was definitely a wild ride. It was interesting. I've never read anything quite like this before, so I did like it. I do still think the very beginning, like the first 20% was like the best part of the whole book, but overall, I did like it. It was very kind of, you know, it was very survive the night. Honestly, I feel like it could have been named that because that's quite literally what this was from the beginning. It was just like trying to survive, trying to get to the next step. Like, and it was interesting having a main character that was really obsessed with true crime, and like she just had all these statistics in her head of like, okay, if you know, you don't make contact within this amount of time, you have this chance of survival. If you go from one location to another, if you do this, like it was kind of just interesting seeing inside of her head and like her trying to use all this knowledge she has of like other true crime things that she's, you know, researched, experienced, like listened to podcasts on, watched videos on to try to like navigate how to get through this situation. It was interesting. I did like it. It wasn't like my favorite thriller I've ever read, but I'm definitely excited to move on to Survive the Night. I'm very interested to see how this one differs from this one because, like I said, this whole book felt like they were just trying to survive the night. So let's see what happens in this one. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on it. And same with the first book. Once I have a better idea of what the plot is of this story, I will come on and let you guys know. Okay guys, I have you balancing on top of my knockoff Stanley Cup, a very high up angle, kind of nice, kind of into it. But anyways, I am 70 pages into Survive the Night and I just got to a good stopping point. I'm at what is basically like part 2 of this story. And basically what's going on is this follows this girl named Charlie that she's kind of had a rough life. Her parents got in this really horrible car accident and passed away. She's been living with her grandma ever since, but hello Kiwi, join the video please. Now she's in college and the bad luck just seems to keep following her. Pretty much, she went to college and she found herself with this roommate that was very eccentric, very beautiful, really tried to push her out of her comfort zone because Charlie is just very much an introvert. She's obsessed with movies. She's going to school for like film theory. She just has seen every movie a million times. Like she has this thing where she pictures her life like as a movie. It's just like the only thing she focuses on, and she's never been one to like go out, party, whatever. Maddie kind of pushed her out of her comfort zone. But basically something happened very recently where Maddie kind of pushed Charlie to go out at night that she didn't really want to go out. They went out, Maddie kind of ditched Charlie. Charlie got upset and was like, I didn't want to be here in the first place. They end up getting in a fight. Charlie leaves, and long story short, Maddie turns up murdered. And what makes it even worse is that Maddie has actually been murdered by this serial killer that has been kind of like haunting this campus for a while now. He's killed multiple people and has not been caught. He has like a telltale sign, so it's very obvious she was killed by this person, but the person's never been caught. So now Charlie's just kind of going through it. She needs to like go home, take a break. So she decides she's going to go stay with her grandma back a couple of states away. It's like a 6-hour drive, but Maddie actually doesn't drive. She hasn't driven ever since her parents got in their accident. So this is so 90s, but there's like a board at their school in like a certain building where it's like a rideshare board where you can put up like a note saying you're like, my cat is like on crack right now. It's like the Zoomy hours. There's a board where you can put up like sticky notes or whatever saying like you're trying to get to this place and like looking for someone to carpool. Basically, you can leave your number. So she is going to put on that board where she's trying to go, ends up finding this guy that is also from that place, is going to be driving home. Long story short, they agreed to ride together. So she's going to be taking this ride 6 hours home with this stranger. Essentially, she needs to get home as soon as possible. Like she needs to get out of there, and he's willing to take her home the next day because he's going to go home too, but they can't leave until 9 o'clock at night. So it's going to be like a 6-hour drive. Can't leave till 9 o'clock at night, won't get there till 3 in the morning, but she's like desperate. She's like, it's fine, I'll do it. But as soon as they get in the car, just like right away, she's a little paranoid about the situation because she knows she doesn't know this guy. She's like, I get it's kind of sketchy, like it's a 6-hour drive and so much of it is like going down a 1-lane highway like in the middle of the like night. It's sketchy, but she really needs to go. But she's like, as she's getting in the car, as she's getting to know him, things are starting to pop up, some red flags, some things that she's just like, is this guy really who I think he is? Like his stories that she's heard are kind of like not, you know, matching up. She's finding like holes within them. And then just now, like when the story got to the second part, like a big kind of bomb was dropped and she's like, oh my God, I'm not sure if this guy is like who I think he is or if he's being honest with me pretty much. So that's where we're at. It's really interesting, like the parallels between this and Run on Red, because in Run on Red, the girl in that story was obviously obsessed with true crime, obsessed with like watching all of these documentaries and stuff about that. And this girl is obsessed with movies. So like, I know that's going to be a big theme in this story. So just kind of funny to see those two comparisons. Also, The difference in this one is they're both like in a car, but in the other story, it's like the girls were in this car together trying to get away from someone that is like trying to get into their car basically. But in this story, the girl is like trapped in the car with the person that she thinks is like trying to hurt her. She just doesn't know. She doesn't know what his deal is. Doesn't know who to trust. I assume she's like thinking that this man is like the serial killer that's been on the loose. Like that's very much obviously from the back of the book. That's the vibe of what you're supposed to be thinking, but I'm interested to see what ends up happening. Like definitely the situation is a little creepy. Just like the things that are coming out about the guy that he isn't being honest about. It's like, what is his motive here? Where is this gonna go? Very interested to see. I feel like things are really about to heat up, so gotta dive back in, and I will check in with you guys again in probably another 100 pages or so. Okay guys, I'm like 2/3 of the way through Survive the Night, and it totally took a turn about halfway through, a little less than halfway through, that I was not expecting at all. And I have to say, I really liked. I don't think I mentioned this in my first clip where I was talking about this book, but it's in third person, which I thought was interesting because I just don't read a lot of books anymore that are truly in third person. So it honestly took me a minute to kind of like rewire my brain and read it that way. I don't know why. It's just kind of confusing being like, she thinks this and her mom was like this and her friend blah blah blah. Like it's just, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's just different if you're used to reading in first person. But now I understand why that is, because the book is actually told from many perspectives. I actually kind of realized as I was going through, which I'm silly for being not observant of this, but you know, the main character is really into movies. It's like her whole thing, and I'm kind of realizing that the book is sort of written like it's a movie script in a way. Like it's not in script format, but like there was this whole page in the beginning of the book that was kind of like setting the scene, and I was kind of confused like what it is. Like it starts being like fade in, parking lot, the middle of night, the middle of nowhere. And I was just like, I mean, it was kind of artsy and different, and I always like stuff like that. But I'm realizing now it's kind of like setting the scene for where this book begins, and it's kind of like giving setting context. And then each chapter is like INT, dorm room, day. Like it's giving you like the setting, what time of day it is, like what's going on, if it's a scene. And it took me like half the book to kind of pick up on that. I'm like, oh, like she's obsessed with movies. She always sees movies in her head. So that's been like an interesting aspect of just realizing how the book is structured. And also with the whole seeing movies in her head, it's made the story so much more interesting because we kind of have a bit of an unreliable narrator situation. Like she has been through so much trauma, and then she also has this thing where she zones out and starts like seeing her life as a movie. So there have been some blurred lines in this story where you're kind of starting to wonder like what is real and what is not, because things will happen and then she'll like kind of wake up out of her trance and it's like, oh, she was just imagining it, and you're just like, shit, wait. But then like it comes back around and it's like, wait, that thing she thought was fake like wasn't fake because this happened. Like it's just happened several times, and it's so interesting, and it has me really kind of on the edge of my seat. And as we're like kind of getting deeper into the story, like tensions are rising. It's getting a lot more suspenseful because the guy is just like creepier and creepier, and also we're getting his perspective now. But it's really interesting the way that it's done because nothing is ever explicitly stated. Like obviously you're meant to think or believe that this guy that she's taking this ride with is the campus killer, like the guy that killed her roommate, and he very well might be. Like I don't know, like it's very much framed like that right now, but it's just one of those stories where I feel like there's gonna be a couple of big plot twists, and I think it can go many different ways, so I'm interested to see what happens with it. But so far I really like this book. I read one other book by Riley Sager. It was called Lock Every Door, and I honestly didn't love that one. It just wasn't my thing. I don't know, but this book, night and day difference, I'm really liking it. I'm really hooked. It's very similar but also very different to Run on Red, but so far I'm really liking this one. Okay guys, I finished Survive the Night, and oh my god, this book was so good. Like it was one of those books where I finished the last page and I just had to kind of sit here thinking about it for a few minutes because there were so many moving parts to this. As to be expected, there was a plot twist, actually multiple plot twists towards the end of this book. I will say one of them I figured out, but not because it was obvious in any way. I just, you know, when you read thrillers, you kind of find yourself trying to guess like what's gonna happen here. Like there's always some sort of twist to it, something that, you know, is hidden, that gets revealed, whatever. So I was trying to guess, and I was like, what if this is what it is? And that was part of it. But still, like, the way that it was revealed, my jaw still hit the floor. I was super shook. I will say, like, trust the process with this book when you read it, because you're gonna read it, because I'm recommending it because it was so freaking good. Like, honestly, one of my favorite thrillers I've read in a very, very long time. So yeah, just trust the process, because like I said, it's structured very interesting. The third person and all of that, it makes so much sense in the end, even down to like the little sort of epilogue. I don't even know if that's like the proper thing to call it, but it was so good. There were so many twists and turns, and I just never knew what was gonna happen. It really had me on the edge of my seat, and I just liked it. It was really, really interesting. I don't feel like I've read anything like this, and I'm so happy that I decided to pick this one up. Also, it just felt very kind of like cozy fall vibes. It really just fit that. I just liked it so much. So I think it's pretty obvious that the winner of this book battle is Survive the Night. It is funny, the two books, Run on Red, Survive the Night, did have a lot of similarities to them. They did involve, you know, kind of like a chase kind of moment, very suspenseful, having to do with, you know, the story's really starting in a car, and you know, just like running for your life in the middle of the night. Like, there were a whole lot of similarities between the two, even down to just some little details, like the girl being really into, you know, true crime, and this girl being really into movies. So I do think this made for a really fun book battle. Like, the books were very comparable, but I just think the quality of Survive the Night was just a lot higher. It was a lot more complex of a story. The characters felt super well-rounded. Like, by the time you finished the book, you really felt like you knew them and you cared about them, where in Run on Red, I never really felt like I got the chance to care about a lot of the characters in there, and there wasn't really like a super grand plot twist within that book that really like blew my mind or anything in the way that this book did. So anyways, guys, this was such a fun little video to film. If you guys have any other book battles you would like for me to do, or just any other suggestions in general for videos on this channel, I am all ears, always happy to take suggestions. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.